If you guys are into shooting the copper bullets, man, I got a great deal for you. We have partnered with Barnes Bullets. They are world famous, known for that Vor TX rifle, the deadliest, most accurate hunting loads on the planet. I like this company, guys, because I have a personal connection to these guys. Down in central Utah, my dad's got this ranch, and on the way to the ranch, you drive past this Barnes Bullets factory, and it's a really cool building just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So I know them well. These all-copper bullets provide destructive power, double diameter expansion, maximum weight retention, and devastating energy transfer, all with excellent accuracy. It's a great choice for Western big game hunters and shooters everywhere. So check them out at barnesbullets.com and let me know what you guys think. I appreciate it. You've heard my Silencer Central ads, I'm sure, and I don't know if you have reached out and contacted them yet. If you're interested in a silencer, though, man, this is the way to go. Silencer Central from the start to finish, because it's quite the process. If you've never gotten a suppressor for one of your rifles, you've got to go through and do the ATF paperwork and the background checks and all that kind of stuff. But the cool part is Silencer Central takes care of it all. It's a several-month process, and so what's cool about it is if you don't want to drop all that money right at the top end of this whole process, you just get a hold of them, and you can do like a payment plan while they're taking care of all the paperwork on the back end. I have the Banish 30, and this thing is awesome. I've never used one of these before, so I'm like learning as I go along, but what I was getting at is from start to finish, Silencer Central has been some of the most amazing people I've ever worked with through the process. They treated me like I was family, and I really appreciated it. You guys should check them out, and you can call them at 866-891-4494 or check it out at silencercentral.com. It will be worth your time, I promise. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, still coming at you from the mobile Broken Tine studio right here in Salt Lake City, Utah at the Hunt Expo. And I'm sitting with my buddy, Mitch Kukson. Do you go by Mitch or Mitchell?
Either or. Mitch is fine.
Mitch is fine? Okay.
Yep.
So Mitch is with Barnes Bullets. And if you guys have been listening to the show lately, you know that Barnes and the Western Huntsman and Eastman's has partnered. I've been talking about these copper bullets and you know, the advantages of these things, and I wanted to get an expert because you guys know I am not like your average gun nut. I have a lot of learning to do when it comes to ammunition and shooting and stuff like that. So, Mitch, welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, love to be here. It's an honor.
This thing is insane, man. Like, I cannot believe how packed it was, especially yesterday.
Absolutely.
But this is actually the first time I've been to the expo since I started this show. I haven't been down here in like 20 years. Mm-hmm. So have you been doing it a long time?
The past 3 years.
Yeah.
I'll work, I don't know, 1 or 2 days. So I just came in yesterday on my own time, and yeah, it was nuts. And,
that's right. We talked yesterday, and you said you were just kind of, it was your off day.
Right. I was happy just to do it on my own because I quick got in and out, and today it's nice. I think Sunday's the day to go.
Yeah.
It's a little bit calmer. You can walk around. Mm-hmm. You feel a little bit not as claustrophobic, but
totally.
Still, Saturday is a great day, and the show's great. And
it is a good show. It's like a shocker for me, man. We live way out in the sticks, and you know, there's probably 100 times more people in this building than the town that I live in.
Sure.
And so it's just like kind of a shocker to go from that to this.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it's fun though, so it's worth it. So give everybody like a bird's eye view of who you are and what you do for Barnes Bullets, and we'll take her from there.
Yeah, so I'm Mitch Kukson, work at Barnes. I'm a R&D engineer. I've worked at Barnes for about 6 years. So anything new product development from start to finish, I'm in charge of. And in the meantime, I do a lot of big game hunting out west. Specialty is elk, love hunting elk. I bow hunt. I'm a terrible bow hunter. I usually shoot them with a rifle.
You're in good company.
Yeah. And mule deer's mixed in there going on, and just really anything else. I've had some other opportunities to pursue, and
So you're from Minnesota,
correct?
How'd you get hooked up with Barnes Bullets?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Minnesota. Went to school there. Got my engineering degree in the Twin Cities, and I did a brief stint with Federal Ammunition as an intern. So that kind of got my foot into the door, and I always loved, grew up hunting, chasing whitetails, turkeys, pheasants, really wanted to be in that industry. So that was kind of my foot in the door. And after I graduated college, I started looking out west, really for anyone, any bullet or firearm manufacturer, anything in the outdoor industry. And I seen a R&D position open up at Barnes, and applied, and somehow they hired me and made the big move out there. So
wow,
I've been out here in Utah for about 6.5 years now.
What is an R&D engineer?
Research and development.
Okay.
Yeah.
I told you, my level of ignorance is going to be quite fascinating.
Yeah.
So moving from Minnesota to Utah, do you live like down in the Mona type area?
A little bit south. I've kind of bounced around. I'm living about 20 miles south of Mona now, so in a real rural town. Nice.
Because I've said this in the ads that I do for Barnes, is my connection with Barnes Bullets. It's been there a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad has a ranch down just past Fayette, north of Gunnison there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up in that area in San Pete County a lot, and been hunting that area since I was a kid.
Sure.
Now I live way up in Montana, but I miss that central Utah. I miss the mule deer down there.
Absolutely.
Actually, we shouldn't say that, huh? Not tell anybody there's
right.
Yeah,
stay away from central Utah in general.
All they have are giant jackrabbits.
Right. Go to Montana, right?
No, they're not in Montana. They're in Wyoming.
Yeah. I'll say Wyoming.
They're up by the Eastman's guys up in Powell.
Yeah.
No. So I'm curious with like that move from Minnesota to Utah. Was it like what you thought it would be living out west? And tell us a little bit about that.
I didn't really know what to expect. I just kind of figured I'll go try this out. If I don't like it, I'll just move back.
Yeah.
And I've just been embracing the mountains ever since. I've never felt bored, I guess you could say that. There's just anything and everything to do within an hour's drive. So I never really felt homesick. I just kept busy. I was out in the mountains exploring, learning how to hunt out west and hike around, deal with altitude, and it's a whole different world, and it's definitely different, but exciting, and I absolutely love it out here. It's great.
Good. I'm always interested in that topic because obviously it wasn't Minnesota, but I grew up out west, and then I was stationed in the military on the East Coast there in North Carolina, in the South, and so it's like it's such a different atmosphere from the Western lifestyle to living somewhere like back east, and it's probably different in is Minnesota considered, it's kind of like the Midwest, right?
Right. Yep.
And so I'm always curious in that side of it, because Utah, you're right, man. The thing with Utah that's cool is you could be in the sandstone desert one day, and then the next day you could be in subalpine, epic mule deer country,
right?
The Mirror Lake Highway to, all these different areas. And it's weird not living here anymore, because I used to know it so well.
Right.
And I know where all the elk are and the deer are. In fact, I can give you some spots down in your neck of the woods, I'll bet you. But
yeah,
it's pretty cool. So, what can you give us like a Barnes bullet, not like elevator pitch, but like an overview of what Barnes Bullet does, specializes in, that kind of thing. And then, yeah, we'll kind of, I want to talk about this mountain lion story in a minute too, but let's get an overview of Barnes Bullets.
Yeah. Brief overview. Our bread and butter is copper bullets. So 100%, solid copper bullets, expanding. We came out with that design, I think about 35 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's really our bread and butter. It's an extremely tough bullet. When it was first created, the idea was not to, you have other tough bullets, but you can still separate the jacket and lead core, and all these premium designs are trying to figure out how to lock those together, keep them from separating, getting that high weight retention. So when you have a solid copper bullet, you're not losing a jacket. It's all copper. It's extremely tough, extremely versatile. You can take shots you normally couldn't with a jacketed lead core bullet. So
can you explain that a little bit? And feel free to, you're an engineer, so your IQ is way higher than mine.
I wouldn't say that.
But explain that. Is that the big advantage with copper bullets, is like its ability to maintain its shape and the range you could take that out to? Or
it's the toughness. You can shoot at an elk, and if it's quartering away, you can put it just in front of the hip and aim at the far shoulder, and it's going to go through and hit that shoulder. It's going to penetrate 30 inches and do that, and not lose weight in the process. You shoot, and there's a lot of good jacketed lead core bullets too, with the premium designs that are going to do similar things. But a plain Jane lead core bullet, you might have an issue with it not penetrating far enough and reaching vitals in a situation like that.
Gotcha.
So with a Barnes bullet, extremely tough, not going to lose weight. It's going to penetrate through. Generally, you get 2 exit holes on it, unless you're shooting at some extreme angle. They're actually pretty hard to recover, but yeah, it's really.
So what about like a Texas heart shot on an elk? Right up the behind. Is that going to have 2 holes still, or?
Probably not. You'll probably find it in the chest cavity.
Yeah. But that would do the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never killed an elk with a rifle, man.
Really?
Oh, that's not, yeah. No, I haven't. No, it's all been bow. So I didn't.
Okay.
It'd be kind of fun though. It's like a different experience,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So interesting. So it's going to hold its form more once it hits the target. Mm-hmm. And, you'd mentioned range earlier. You're more confident out further with copper.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So we have a couple different product lines. We have our TSX, which was, I guess the first modification of the original product. But it has no tip. And then we have the TTSX, which has a tip. And then our last product, in the copper line is the, LRX, the long range X bullet. So one of the downfalls, I guess, of copper bullets is you have to put the grooves in them to make them shoot accurately. So you'll see, we'll call them cantilever grooves. It reduces the bearing surface, so you get less fouling, less pressure buildup, because it's not like lead where you can just take a pliers and pinch it and it's soft and it's malleable. Well, the copper is soft, but the lead core is even softer.
Yeah.
But anyways, that lowers your BC. Having those cantilever grooves on them, and then copper is not as dense as lead. So say a popular 6.5 Creedmoor, 140 grains is extremely common. We can't do that in a copper bullet because it won't stabilize. You have a big cavity, you have a plastic tip, and you have a less dense material. And then you put the grooves on there. You get a really long bullet.
Yeah.
So our Vortex LR load is 127 grain LRX, and that's
for a 6.5.
Yeah, so that's kind of the heaviest you can go.
Wow.
With copper bullets. But anyways, the cantilever grooves lower your BC. So shooting further distances is a little bit tougher with copper bullets, because we also need to get the expansion right at close and far. We have a set range. We can't just make it work at 2 feet away all the way out to 1,500 yards. We have to select a window and say, from 0 to 500, it's going to work perfect. And that's your range. But with the LRX product, we gave up a little bit on the front end. You're going to lose a little bit of weight. We're still talking 80, 90% weight retention, but it's not going to have 100% big, beautiful curl back pedals. But then we can get them expand out to 700 reliably.
Nice.
And that's our long range product. And it depends on the cartridge, like the new 300 PRC, that'll go well beyond 1,000. But if you're shooting like a 6mm Creedmoor, obviously it's not going to go that far. But you have to know your distance with copper bullets, and you can call us up and ask us, I'm shooting this bullet out of this cartridge. What's my range? What am I going to expect? And we can kind of tell you, because every bullet's different, and that comes into the design consideration.
So I imagine you as an engineer, you're like in a lab messing with these bullets and coming up with different designs, how to get, I don't know, faster penetration or more range or whatever. Is that kind of like, I'm curious what your day-to-day looks like.
Sure. Yeah, if we're coming out like a new product, like I don't know. Well, we'll talk about the 280 AI here. We just came out. We just started factory loading 280 Ackley. It's with a brand new 152 grain LRX bullet. So just had to go through that process just in the past 3 months of designing that bullet. Mm-hmm. So I go through and look at the cartridge design, look at the shape of the chamber, and then figure out what shape of the bullet needs to be. So I can get some rough guidelines, mins and maxes, and then I'll run it through our 6 Degree of Freedom software, and it'll tell me the drag of the bullet, whether or not it's going to be stable, give me some estimates on some other aerodynamic coefficients, and then I'll run it through a few different iterations and kind of optimize it. So I get the external shape, and then it's really our manufacturing engineers' jobs, our press operators. They make the cavity what it is and make sure it expands. And Barnes is probably the best in the industry at it. We've been doing it for 35 years. We have the expertise. It's crazy what they can do down there. When we're first testing, we'll go shoot it. We have a big water tank. It's really cool. It's about 4 feet wide and I don't know, 15, 16 feet tall. And we shoot our bullets into that. And that's how we test expansion. So we'll kind of guess at a cavity design, go shoot it into the tank and see what they look like. And then they'll take a look at that and say, well, instead of this 11 degree punch, I'm going to try the 12 degree because it's going to do this. And they go try it and they improve the bullet. And it's amazing how they can do that. And that's what 35 years of experience of building copper bullets will get you. That's all on their end. I do the exterior. I'll do some ammunition tooling design, but they're perfecting the cavity and they're experts in it. It's cool to watch them work.
It's fascinating stuff, man. You just think, okay, it's a bullet. They put it, in a shell and it, shoots. And I don't think a lot of people understand like the science behind a lot of this ammunition and the different types, and especially with these copper bullets. I used to shoot exclusively copper bullets back when I first got out of the service. Mm-hmm. And then I got all into bow hunting, and like now I'm just kind of getting back into rifle hunting. And actually what I'm finding, Mitch, is I actually really like rifle hunting. It's a totally different experience. It's a lot of fun. The only drawback for me is like elk hunting, the elk aren't talking as much. And I love to communicate with the elk, and I love to call in elk. And so that's been my biggest hang up. But, the last few deer, well, that's not true. The last deer I killed was with a bow, but before that, the last few deer I've been killing have all been rifle. Okay. And it's just like, I want to expand my knowledge on it, because where I hunt in like North Idaho, Western Montana, it's real short range stuff, it's real brushy, real thick there. But I'm starting to branch out a lot more, and I feel like I need to start learning the dynamics of how this ammunition works and how to get out there to 500 yards, 600 yards or whatever. Cause you just don't have, like 100 yards is pushing it where I'm at, know, a lot of the deer I've killed rifle wise are with my open sights 30-30 old cowboy gun, the Model 94,
Okay. Yeah.
And that's totally fine where I'm at. And so, I want to switch gears though for a minute. I want to talk about this mountain lion story. And can you give us like the gist of what happened there and how that went down? Because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So, like I said, I was born and raised in Minnesota. So my brother still lives there, or both my brothers, my parents, grandparents, everyone. My brother's been on elk hunts with me, and he's killed elk, but he's never killed a mule deer. And my dad has actually never killed a deer, period, a whitetail or a mule deer.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's surprising for somebody in Minnesota.
Right. He's more of a upland guy. And then when I was younger, he'd bring us out in the deer stands, and he'd obviously let us shoot. So he was kind of the mentor and let us shoot all the whitetails. So between the two, they haven't shot a mule deer, and so I took him out on a mule deer hunt in Utah, actually up by you, in that San Pete area.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But brought him out here and got him up on the mountain. We climbed out on the ridge before dark on the opening day, and didn't see a lot of deer. It was a little frustrating. There were shots all around us. I don't know how we didn't see any deer. Everyone but us was shooting.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was probably a couple hours in the opener, and I decided to climb down the mountain a little bit to get a better view of the bottom, because I could see everything up top. It was a burnt area, very open. I felt like I had glassed that long enough that there was nothing in there. And down in the bottom, it wasn't burnt. It was thick pines, and I figured they might be kind of in that transition area between the pines and the burnt area. So I kind of went down there, and I seen something weird on the hillside. It was kind of this red blob, and it was out of place. I had no idea what it was, and I put up my binoculars to it, and it was a gut pile. And while I was looking at the gut pile, a cat came up to it.
Oh, no kidding.
And I mean, my heart just skipped a beat, and it didn't take me long to figure out that.
Wait. Was this a gut pile from opening day? Like somebody had got one that morning and left it?
No, it was. So I believe they closed the spike hunt a day or two before then for elk.
Yeah.
So it must have been an elk gut pile.
Okay. So you see a cat hit this gut pile.
Yeah. And it's probably 9 o'clock in the morning. So it's fairly late in the morning. It's fully sunny. So just kind of weird to see a lion, but it was really skittish. It would go up to the gut pile, it would run off, it would go back, kind of paw at it.
And how far away from the gut pile were you?
I was probably 600 yards.
Oh, wow. Oh, you were ways off.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it took me just a few seconds, I guess. It actually hit me sooner than I thought, but I figured out that Utah just opened up the mountain lion season, because before you always had to have a tag, and you see a mountain lion, you can't harvest it because you have to have a tag. But they just opened that up earlier that year. I think it might have been in May or something.
That you don't have to have a tag or something?
Right.
Oh,
it's
really?
open season.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. Hey, Utah just went up in my book a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. They wanted to prioritize, the cougars killing a lot of the deer. So they opened it up, and so yeah, it was fair game. So like I said, I was 600 yards away, and I was on a steep hill, and I didn't have a shooting rest, and there was oak brush in front of me. Couldn't get a steady rest, and I ended up just leaning over the oak brush. It was so thick, I could just kind of lean into it, and it supported me, and I could get my rifle barrel on the branch, one of the thicker branches, and took a shot, and I heard it hit before it actually seen it. The big whack it makes when you hit something. And then I seen it, got it back on the rifle scope, and seen it run off. It didn't go down right away. So we gave it a couple minutes, a couple hours really. And the funny part is I text my dad and brother, and it's like, hey, I just shot a mountain lion. And they didn't text me back. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And I went up and talked to them and said, hey, you get my text? They're like, yeah.
What was the last thing you said?
I told them I shot a mountain lion, and they just didn't get it. It didn't click with them. They're like, did you have a tag? I was like, no. And they were just confused because it's just not something you ever hear about.
Yeah.
And so I told my dad we're going to go down there and go find it, skin it out, bring it back. And he's like, that's kind of weird, but okay. It was just out of his world. And, for me too, I never expected to shoot a mountain lion like that. But we go down there, and me and my brother start trailing blood. Left my dad up on top of the mountain because it was a pretty good drop down. So we went down there, trailed blood, and it was good blood. And we ended up going into thick pines again, and we couldn't see, I don't know, 10 feet in front of us. And we kept having to backtrack. You'd follow blood until a down log you couldn't cross, so you'd have to back out, go around it. We end up splitting up, not but 10 feet. My brother starts yelling at me. He's like, "Hey, do you hear that?" And I can't hear anything because I'm busting brush. I'm stepping on twigs and logs and breaking branches. I can't hear, so I stop. And, no, I don't hear anything. He said, "Something's growling at us." And then I heard it, and the mountain lion was still injured. It was still alive. And it was growling between me and my brother, and we were about 10 feet away, and we couldn't see it. And it starts hissing, and we're both freaking out, have our guns up. And I just feel stupid. I have this 26-inch long barrel rifle. I can't see the mountain lion. It's 10 feet away, and I can't see anything. If it wanted to come at me, I'm screwed. I'm not getting a shot off.
Oh, yeah.
And my brother finally sees it and puts it down. But, I mean, it was in between us, like, not far away.
Wow, man. That would be sketchy because there's like, I hunt in country that has a lot of grizzly and wolves and all this stuff, but it's mountain lions that they always kind of make me nervous, man. They're so like stealthy, you know, and you just never know what's around the corner. What they could be right behind you, you don't know it. So you found it, got and put it down.
Yeah.
And did you take the meat?
I did, yeah.
How was it?
It wasn't bad. We tried the tenderloins, and they're pretty good, honestly. I wasn't expecting a whole lot, but yeah, it was all right.
Interesting. So I learned a couple major things there. I did not know that Utah just opened it up like that and just kind of made it so it's like some initiative to get the mountain lion numbers reduced kind of thing. Is that
right? Yeah, it ended up being I think it was passed through on the political side. It actually wasn't the DWR, which is kind of interesting how they went through that. But yeah, it's open season. You have to make sure to register them once you harvest one. So like you have 3 days to do that. You take it into the office. They identify the sex, take a tooth sample, and take a GPS coordinate. So they're keeping track. So it'll be really interesting at the end of the year to see how many they've killed. Because right now the hound guys are going after them.
Oh, I'll bet.
There's only a handful of guys that, see them in the daylight on their own, shoot them with their rifle.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The hound guys are the ones that are lucking out in this deal.
That's who takes care of back home. It's the houndsman. I mean, that's what it takes. And again, it's just so brushy. We've got them all over the place. But I've had a couple on some of my cameras this last year. But I need to like let my dad know about that because he's had a lion problem down at his place, and I don't know that he knows that there was like I think he thought you had to have a special tag for it.
Sure.
So I'm gonna call him after this and let him know. Is it like just open, or is there seasons, or is there?
I believe it's open year round.
Okay.
Any method. Well, I shouldn't say any method. I know you can spot and stalk and use hounds.
Yeah.
I don't know about trapping and baiting and all that.
Yeah, well,
you have to look into the regulations.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's ways to get around some of that, I suppose. But it's interesting how different states are, man. Because right next door in Colorado, they're talking about the ban of mountain lion and bobcat hunting, and
right.
And it's like their stepping stone. Yeah, predator hunting is always the first one to be attacked by the anti-hunting community. It's just something they portray these animals as they need to be protected, but to hell with the rest of the species on the landscape. No matter what the cost is, protect these predators. And so it's interesting. Right next door, that's going on, and then Utah's got the exact opposite approach.
Right. Yeah, I mean they're polar opposites completely.
Yeah. What Barnes bullet did you get it with?
So I had an interesting cartridge. It's a 6.5 300 Win Mag. So it's just a Win Mag neck down to a 6.5. It's a poor man's version of a 6.5 300 Weatherby or RPM.
Oh, wow.
It's just a Win Mag neck down. So I shoot our 6.5 127 grain LRX. So pretty light bullet at 127, but I've killed several elk with that bullet, and it puts them down. It's light, but when you're shooting it that fast and you have a monolithic bullet, it hits hard. It doesn't lose a ton of weight. And I've only recovered one bullet out of everything I've killed with it.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So are you hunting mostly Utah for elk, or are you going out of state at all, or?
Mostly Utah. Yeah? I've ventured out to Wyoming. I guess that's it for elk. I've mostly done deer in other states.
I've been talking about Hoffman boots for a very long time. You guys know that I'm a huge fan of this company. And it's not just the great products that they make. It's the story behind the company and the people that run it. This generational family of shoemakers right here in North Idaho makes some of the best hunting boots and pack boots and lineman boots and all your boot needs right in one place at hoffmanboots.com. For us hunters, I highly recommend the Explorer. And I don't care if you're running in the 6-inch or the 8-inch or the 10-inch. Personally, I love my 8-inch Explorers. They've got the Vibram sole. They are totally waterproof. There's no break-in period. Guys, you can't go wrong with Hoffman boots because you get all that without breaking the bank. So check them out at hoffmanboots.com and use promo code all caps lock Huntsman10 at checkout for 10% off, and find out why I have been wearing my Hoffman boots for years and years. Don't be one of those people that have it in their mind that Savage Arms is the same firearms that your grandpa was running around with 40 years ago. It's not. Big game hunting rifles that you can count on. I love my Savage firearms. I have got the Savage 110 Hunter, and my daughter is pretty happy with this 110 Apex Hunter XP. The AccuTrigger is a really interesting little piece to this firearm, and it's a new piece of technology that if you've never tried one, you should, because it'll make you more accurate. It's a much easier, higher quality firearm than anything else I've got out there, and I've got a lot of firearms, guys, and so if you're in the market for a new hunting rifle, make sure you visit savagearms.com, because I promise you're going to find something that is accurate, easy to handle, easy to use, long range, functional, just a high-quality weapon that you could take to the field and have a lot of confidence that when the time comes, you've got that Savage backing you up, and you're going to be notching a tag. Check it out, savagearms.com. Let them know the Western Huntsman sent you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Because Utah has some weird, like, there's areas that are spike only, and then there's open bull areas. I remember the last season I hunted elk in Utah, I had a spike only tag. And I let off like a cow call, and there was like 300 class bulls in 3 different directions from me screaming back coming in.
Right.
And I'm like, what the heck? And it's because it is, spike only unit. Never saw a spike. Never saw a spike. And now all I see are spikes.
Yeah.
Where I hunt. But
yeah, so. I stick to the open bull side. Just like to shoot something with a little bit bigger horns.
Hold on.
Stop line. Take it through. Take the arrows out of the main entrance. Get your chance to win all kinds of extremely nice prize.
I'm trying to look at the time so I can cut that out. So. Is he done?
I think so, yeah.
He'll have these big gaps, and then we'll get back into the conversation. Then he'll start talking again. It's
of course.
It's the only downfall with recording somewhere like this. So, you'd mentioned some newer products with Barnes bullets that, with that, like, what do you want people that don't know anything about Barnes bullets or copper bullets specifically? Is there something like you'd want them to know that is either coming out or on the horizon, or things that like advantages to using the copper bullet when you're hunting kind of thing? Which, go ahead. I was going to ask another question, but that's enough questions.
Sure. Yeah, we have a few different products coming out. One of the big ones this year is the Vortex reduced recoil. So our premium ammunition line is called Vortex. High quality. It has our TTSX bullet in it. And the reduced recoil version is all the same performance of Vortex. It's just in a reduced recoil package. And it sounds easy to do, but there is a lot of development on it. And to make it a good load was pretty dang difficult. But we're happy with the outcome, and it's a great product in that.
So reduced recoil, like when you say that, to me, it sounds like, okay, let's maybe take reduce the powder load or something, the grain, or, I told you, I'm really not up to snuff with this
all right.
ammo talk. So is that there, but you're saying there's like more science behind it
to make it a premium product and make it work well. It is, you can't just take a 70 grain charge on a Magnum and reduce it to 30 grains and expect it to work out well.
Sure.
And especially in all conditions. So to get the reduced recoil, we lowered the bullet weight. So you'll see bullet weights are pretty light compared to your standard loads. And then we reduced the muzzle velocity as well. So you're starting with lower muzzle velocities, which means, 300-400 yards. You're going to have, compared to a standard round, you're going to have pretty dang low velocity. So we thought about just putting our standard bullets in there, but you start looking at our function windows and what velocities our bullets work at, and it was right on the low velocity end, and you're going to have marginal performance. So we actually designed bullets from the ground up specifically for this product. So we tailored the cavity for the new lower muzzle velocities and velocities downrange, to make them work well.
So performance.
I
can't even understand what they're saying.
No.
It's like muffled.
Where do they move? Don't see it.
I can't even understand what those announcements are saying. It's like such a weird muffled sound.
It probably doesn't help in here either. You got kind of one entrance for sound. And
well, hopefully I can remember these timestamps so I can cut all that out, because that's really obnoxious. But I want to go back to what you were just talking about with the reduced recoil, and I'm always interested in that because I have two daughters that are way into hunting. I've got one on a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Okay.
And one is 7mm 08.
Okay.
And does Barnes Bullets, like, essentially, do you cover all cartridges, sizes, all that kind of stuff, or is there limitations with that?
Most of the popular ones, yeah.
Okay, so I can get like 7mm 08. That's always the hard one for my older daughter.
Sure.
But it's a great little rifle. She's killed a couple of good deer with it, but the question I guess I was getting at is that kind of what it's designed for. Like, my girls are, my wife is not even 5 feet tall. So my girls are little, and so it doesn't take much recoil for it to, I don't want them to have this, fear when they're squeezing the trigger, that hesitation that comes up makes you miss animals. And so is that kind of the goal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the target audience. It's really the whole experience. Right off the bat, we targeted about 25% in reduction. Some loads are a little bit less, some are quite a bit more, just kind of depended on where things ended up. But right off the bat, the recoil coming back, hitting your shoulder, that's going to be reduced.
Okay.
The sound is significantly different. It's not as loud. And we also tried to reduce the muzzle flash as well. So the combination of the three, we're just trying to limit that whole event of the firearm going off and make it a more pleasant experience while still having a premium product that's going to be accurate, consistent, and reliable.
And still lethal.
Right.
Yeah. And bear with me a little bit here because you're throwing a lot at me. Again, hamster doesn't spin my wheel very fast. At what point is a reduced recoil bullet not effective? Is there like a limitation there, whether it's a range thing or like a species thing even? Like is it okay to shoot at elk with reduced recoil at over 200 yards?
I think you'd probably be okay with the magnums. So we have a 7 Magnum and a 300 Win Mag coming out. I think you'd be all right with those at close distances. I wouldn't push the limits on them. And you just have to be smart. You can take a look at our drop charts, look at the energy. And in fact, our drop charts on, I think all of them just go out to 300 yards. And that's kind of telling you, don't shoot past that.
Yeah.
Not with a reduced recoil load. You can do it with our standard Vortex, but with these bullets and their lower muzzle velocities, you're not going to have a ton of energy out past that range. So just being smart. But I think the Win Mag and the 7 Mag, you'd be all right close distance.
Okay.
Don't push the envelope.
Can you, from an engineer standpoint, I always think that a lot of my episodes are kind of geared towards. Well, they're not geared towards. There's a lot of people that listen that are just getting into hunting, and maybe like explain from an engineer standpoint the difference between a Magnum round and like not a non-Magnum.
Velocity and pressure. A lot of the Magnums around 65,000 pounds per square inch of peak chamber pressure, and then the velocity at which they're shot at. It's kind of a loose term, Magnum versus non-Magnum.
Yeah.
But it just comes down to velocity and pressure.
Okay. See, it's funny. I ask that. Oh, there's probably some new hunters. I don't know that I could have really described the difference. I mean, I know what I use, and I don't know if I could explain what that difference was. So, so basically velocity, pounds per pressure. So you would you say like a Magnum, a little more knockdown power kind of thing? Yeah,
you're definitely getting more initial energy downrange. Energy is a big deal with it.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of, like I said, it's loose. A lot of it's in the name, like 7rem Magnum, 300 Win Mag, the short mags, Remington Ultra Mag, but like the new cartridge 300 PRC, that's in the ballpark of a 300 Win Mag. It's not called a Magnum, but it is a Magnum. It's all loose. The ammunition world's weird like that. And it depends on who you talk to. Like, I don't think most people consider a 30-06 Magnum, but it has more velocity and energy than, say, a 308 Win.
Sure. I mean, that's you can't go wrong with a good old trusty 30-06, man.
Absolutely.
That's what I grew up using, and I don't know, some of this stuff. It's not that I think it goes too far, but it's gotten a little bit convoluted with the different calibers and cartridges and whatnot. But some people are way into that stuff. They really geek out on it. So as a bullet engineer, what is your go-to rifle and cartridge?
Oh, that's kind of a dumb one. Like I already said, it's that 6.5 300.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be a deer rifle. I built it to shoot mule deer. It's flat, has a ton of energy at the muzzle, and with that 6.5 127, it has a respectable BC, so I can still take pretty long shots with it. I never intended it for it to be an elk rifle, being that it's a little bit lightweight on the bullet side and being a 6.5. But I've just been cheap and stubborn, and I shoot elk with it. And it's been phenomenal. No
issues with the elk.
No. Yeah. Like I said, I've only recovered one bullet out of every elk I've shot. And that was at 600 yards. The rest have gone through and through, and they pile up where they're at or don't go very far. So I want to upgrade to a 300 PRC designed around our, it's a newer bullet. It's a 30 cal 208 grain LRX. And that was really designed around the PRC as well. So it's got a really high BC. It requires that faster twist rate. That's going to be my next elk rifle. But right now I'm still with that 6.5, and it hasn't disappointed me. It's a great rifle.
Yeah.
And great cartridge, great round.
So that's because you know how contentious that topic gets on like social media. Oh no, this rifle's the best. Oh no, that rifle's the best. And so it's always interesting hearing, like, you do this for a living. So there's a lot of weight and credibility behind your opinion on it. Can you speak to like the state of the industry from a standpoint of, a couple years ago we were going through this major ammo shortage.
Right.
And we kind of, when we met yesterday, we kind of touched on this a little bit, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about, where the state of the industry is in terms of supply distribution, where we can find ammo. Is there going to be another ammo shortage? That's always like a hot topic and top of mind for those of us that I'm kind of one of those. I'm not. I was joking. There's like this negative connotation around the term prepper, but I'm a prepared guy, right? And I stockpile stuff, and ammo is one of my big things that I stockpile. And that's why I get pretty nervous about like ammo shortages. Where are we at with all that?
Right now, the market's in a pretty healthy state. It's not what it's been in the past 3 years during COVID and everything else, where we were going gangbusters and still a minute hit the shelves, it was gone. We've caught up a lot on availability. If you check our website, check our dealers, you're going to find product, which is good and bad. The sales numbers aren't as high, but it's nice to tell customers that, hey, go buy it. Because a lot of our complaints during the years is, hey, I can't find your stuff. I want to shoot it. Can't find it anywhere. So it's pros and cons to it. But right now it's pretty healthy. Availability is good. Looking in the future, there might be supply shortages in propellant.
Supply shortages for what?
Propellant, powder.
Gotcha.
With nitroglycerin or nitrocellulose shortages over in Europe, it's a little bit more difficult to get power. And then the current conflicts are also allocating more propellant to them. We're kind of small fries in the grand scheme of things when they're doing medium and large cal and supporting small cal over there.
For like
our industry
stuff going on in Ukraine and Israel and all that, you know, turmoil going on.
So that's a little bit uncertain. We still haven't had any issues as of yet. And that's, like I said, the market is healthy right now. If things started taking off, could be different. But right now things are looking okay.
Things are good. And can people jump on like the Barnes Bullets website and order ammo, or is there where all can we find Barnes Bullets?
Yeah, you can order direct. It's probably going to be a little more expensive than the dealers. I'd probably go check with the dealers first. Jump online. There's a good website we always recommend. It's called ammoseek.com. And it's nice. You can just type in what you're looking for, whether it's component bullets or ammunition. You can say Barnes Bullets, this is my cartridge or range of cartridges, and it's going to pull up everyone who has it in stock. So it's going to pull up all their dealers there, and it avoids clicking through each one and doing that 15 times. It pulls them all up at once and shows the ones in stock, which is nice.
Oh, okay. Cool. Huh. People are going to see the price point of copper versus lead. And has that been like a problem sales wise to move these copper bullets versus, I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, you know, oh, well, I've been using lead for a long time kind of thing. How do you justify the price difference, I guess? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Right off the bat, copper isn't cheap. Making lead core bullets is generally, they don't cost a lot to make. Lead is cheap, and then you're using a real thin copper jacket, so your cost of materials is pretty low. Then you move to 100% solid copper, and that gets expensive just from a material standpoint. And then we have to do extra operations as too. We have to tip them, we have to put can lure rings on them, we have to test them in our water tank, test accuracy, make sure everything's looking good. So that's what drives the cost of ammunition up for copper bullets. But it's a premium product, and you pay in performance. You can take those quartering away shots, and you're going to have an extremely tough bullet, and you pay what for that performance.
Have you ever? No, let me rephrase that. I'm going on. I'm big into spring bear hunting, right?
Okay.
I love I love doing spot and stock, and I love doing baiting. We can bait up in North Idaho, right?
Sure.
And so I've got a couple of bait sites, and the nice thing with baiting, Mitch, is I can be really selective. All these different bears come in to my my bait barrel, and it's a lot of fun watching them. I would do it just to watch the bears.
Sure.
Tagging out on one is just kind of like a benefit, you know, to the whole thing. So I want to use copper this year.
Okay.
And I'm gonna set where I've selected one of my bait sites. I'm gonna be a little further away than usual because usually I try to be in bow range.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to use a rifle, which I've used a rifle the last couple of years, but I was still like super close. And I think that you can't fool a bear very easily. It's not like other animals. Like if you're within 30, 40 yards of this bait barrel, they know, and it's only the ones that are like, you know what, it's worth the risk for what's in that bait barrel that still come in. Okay. But the big wise ones, they don't fall for that. So I want to set out about 80 to 90 yards from my bait site.
Okay.
And I'm going to probably I have a Savage 6.5 Creedmoor, and I want to use that. And I feel like with this copper bullet, I'm going to be a lot more confident because bears are tricky. If you hit a bear wrong and that thing runs off, you know, the fur's just thick. They don't bleed much. Sometimes they don't bleed for like 100 yards, and they'll die in the craziest places. Do you do any bear hunting?
I'm hoping to do my first one this year, doing a spot and stalk.
Okay.
We'll see if in Idaho.
Oh, in Idaho?
Yeah, we'll see. It's real tentative plans right now, but as of yet, I haven't. No.
Well, I want you to know you are always welcome to come up to North Idaho with me and sit on a bait barrel. I love sharing the bear hunting experience over a bait barrel. It is just something else. So it is not easy, but it's a hoot. So you're more than welcome anytime. But what do you recommend I use? So like which round for that 6.5?
Yeah, so for the Creedmoor, we have 2 rounds. One's in the Vortex line, one's in the Vortex LR. The Vortex line is 120 grain TTSX, and the Vortex LR is that 127 grain, which I've been talking about.
Yep. That's the new one.
Yeah, newer. Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's still fairly old in our books, but LRX is a newer line of bullets.
The LRX. Okay.
It's a toss-up. I think both are going to work great. I've shot things with that 127 from 50 yards out to 600 and it's performed. But where you're going to be, where you know you're set up on bait, about 90 yards, I'd probably go with the 120 grain. You're going to get a little bit more velocity. And the TTSX, generally close range, is going to hold up its weight retention a little bit more. You're probably going to get dang near 100% and have those pedals curl back and look picture perfect like a flower. The 127, where it's more meant for long range, you might lose a little bit of weight at those really close shots.
Yeah, that is a close shot.
So it's still the amount of energy for them to rip off pedals and lose weight. It's going to do a ton of damage there.
Yeah.
But I'd still, where you know you're sitting over a bait, I'd go with that 120.
Okay.
But either are great picks, like I said.
All right. I'm pretty confident in that. I'm excited to see how that goes down. And man, that'd be fun. I'd love to get you up to North Idaho with
That'd
it.
be great.
So I live in Montana, but I'm right on the border, and I do all my bear hunting basically in Idaho.
Okay.
Because you can bait over there. You can't bait in Montana.
Uh-huh.
And so I just pop over the border, and I lived in Idaho for years, and I've got all the great spots. And so
there you go.
Tons of bears. A lot of them are not much bigger than a raccoon, but you get some big mammer jammers that coming in, and so yeah, I'd love to get you up there. Where are you? Southern Idaho? Is that where you're going?
Yeah, that's the plan. Buddy just moved up to Pocatello, so hoping to have him figure things out, and I'll tag along, and we can, I guess, figure it out together. But
heck yeah.
Yeah, just spot and stalk, just seeing what we can do. And if anything else, it's I get spring fever bad, and just getting out and hiking around, looking for animals. It's the way to do it.
That's what I love about spring bear and spring turkey. Do you do any turkey hunting?
I do. I'm a terrible turkey hunter too.
Oh my gosh.
I did a lot in Minnesota, and I tried doing it in Utah, and they just made me so mad the first season. I haven't gone back since.
Go over to the Phelps booth and grab you one of those black bat turkey diaphragm calls.
Okay.
And it'll change your life. But that's what I love about turkey and bear is, a lot of people get excited to go out and shed hunt and whatnot. I'm not a big shed hunter. And so, but you get that cabin fever going on, and now we start seeing all the snow melting. We're almost into March, and I can't wait. But yeah, that'll be a good hunt for you. That southern, it's more, it's more like built for that spot and stock feel. Spot and stock in North Idaho is really tough. Just again, I keep going back to how brushy it is. The jungle's up there. But that'd be a fun hunt down there. You have a lot longer range kind of shots, and
absolutely, yeah.
So now that you've been in the West for a few years here, any hinkering to go back to the Midwest, or are you like hooked on this lifestyle?
I'm pretty hooked on the lifestyle. Yeah, Minnesota has its cool perks. Up north has the boundary waters, has the lakes, the fishing up there. You can't touch that. Out west, it's not even close. But,
yeah. It's different. Yeah.
It's nice. I can stay out here. I can be in the mountains, hunt, and then I'll go home. I go home pretty often, most major holidays. And once we'll go on a fishing trip in the summer every year. So I still get to have that, do the fishing and the things I want to do. But, it's the mountains is kind of where I want to be and do the Western hunting. That's what I've been doing for the past 6 years is from September to November. It's all I do.
Yeah, man. And now you're gonna. Is this your first time spring bear hunting?
Yeah,
this year.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna be addicted to this spring bear hunt, man, and it's gonna just take up all sorts of time. But that's awesome. I think Utah's just super dry. The fishing's not like, I don't think of Utah as like a great fishing state, even though there is some good fishing here. I do miss I miss the old days of Strawberry Reservoir.
Sure. Yeah.
That was a good fishery for many years. I don't know. It might still be, but I haven't been up there in years, but I like to fly fish, and Utah's got a few great areas to fly fish. But it's, I think, like you said, compared to like the Midwest or up in my neck of the woods, when you think of fishing, it's just a dry state here, man.
Right. Yeah. It's Minnesota. It's like you have within 10 minutes, you can choose 20 different lakes. And here it's like, look at a 2-hour radius and you have 5 spots. And
I know.
I mean, it's different with the stream fishing for trout and fly fishing and stuff like that. But the big lakes and reservoirs, it's different.
And they've gotten so busy because, like you said, there's not a ton of options. And so everybody's going to the same places. The last time I mentioned Strawberry, the last time I was there, it was a shit show.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe how many people, like the whole bank was lined with people.
Yeah.
Anyway, that hopefully, well, yeah. Well, this is, this has been, what, is there anything that we missed that you want to talk about with Barnes Bullets before?
Let's hit one more thing here.
Yeah.
This hasn't been announced yet. It's a new product. It's the 7mm PRC. So this is, I guess it's not on the down low anymore, but
it's not going to be after this episode, buddy.
Yeah. So we're working on a 7mm PRC. We're really excited about it. It's a brand new bullet design. It'll be somewhere around 160 grains. We just did our first experimental run on our bullet press. Function's looking phenomenal. So we tested gel out to 700 yards, and you're getting really good expansion, terminal performance. In which it should be for that cartridge. That's what it was designed for.
Yeah.
And it's going to have a high BC. So we're continuing to work through load development, picking the right powders on that. And hopefully early summer, late spring, it'll be available. But it's a new product that hasn't been announced. And we're all contemplating what rifles we should build off of it. So it's exciting. It's a good product when the employees are starting to think about building rifles around it.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. The way you said that, like I could picture you guys all in there geeking out on this new round or whatever coming out. When did you say it's going to be available?
Hoping April or May, June timeframe.
Okay.
Early summer, late spring. And that's all tentative. It just kind of depends on how development goes. Sometimes it can be a real pain and you're bumped out a couple months or.
Oh, hang on.
I have Mark and Kristen. Mark and Kristen, please come to the SFW booth. We have a young man who is looking for you.
Uh-oh.
It's not good.
Is he done? Okay. What were we saying though? Those interruptions, they really mess
The
with the
time
flow.
frame. We're
Yes.
thinking May, June time frame.
May, June. Okay.
Certainly in time for hunting. So keep checking back around there at our dealers on our website. Should be able to pick something up.
Good deal. Well, I'm going to have the Barnes Bullet website and your Instagram in the show notes here.
Okay.
And like I said, guys, I've been talking about Barnes Bullets for a long time. I used Barnes Bullets back before I even knew what a podcast was, right? So this like really worked out, and a lot of it is because of my connection. I felt like, oh man, they manufacture right close to my family's property down in central Utah, and I just like the quality and I like the story behind Barnes Bullets. It's like a cool company story. It's not some monstrosity of a company. It's like you guys just are, it's like a niche company, and it's an American story, and it's an American product, and I just I'm tickled that we're partnered up, because it just makes a lot of sense from my standpoint. So I appreciate you joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I know you've been in Utah for a long time, but welcome to the West.
Yeah.
And I hope you stay, and I hope you come up and see me in Montana and Idaho to go chase bears.
Yeah, I hope to. That's great.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks. You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman, and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the